My name is Michael Donovan, and for 20 years, I wasn't just the general manager of the Grand Ambassador Hotel, I was the Grand Ambassador Hotel. Then Ava Sharma arrived. Frankly, Michael, your personal touch is archaic, she announced, her voice sharp enough to slice through the thick unease that had settled over my office the moment her assistant summoned me. This hotel needs a digital nervous system, not a dinosaur at the helm. You're done. 20 years evaporated in 20 seconds. I just stared at her, her words echoing in the suddenly too quiet space, my team just outside the deliberately opened door. She had no idea, absolutely no clue. What kind of loyalty, what kind of storm, she just arrogantly dismissed. She would learn. The next few weeks under Ava, before my official last day, were a masterclass in corporate demolition. She was the new VP of Operations parachuted in from some soulless tech-driven hotel chain, armed with spreadsheets and a disdain for anything that couldn't be quantified. Her first all-hands meeting was a declaration of war on tradition. We're shedding the old ways that have been holding this hotel back, she proclaimed, pacing before us, a sleek predator in a bespoke suit. Guest interaction will be app-driven. Personalized check-ins by staff. Relics of the past. We need efficiency, not sentimental chats. I watched the faces of my team, people I'd mentored for years, their expressions a mix of confusion and dawning horror. My renowned guest relations program, the very heart of the Grand Ambassador's 5-star reputation, was being publicly labeled a fossil. Later, in a department head meeting, her gaze swept over my senior team, Maria from housekeeping, with her encyclopedic knowledge of guest preferences, Tom, our F&B director, whose wine pairings were legendary. Some of you are comfortable. Too comfortable, Ava stated, her tone implying they were the problem. That comfort is a liability. We need agility, not anchors dragging us down. The implication was clear: old staff, old ideas, all dead weight. The final straw was her review of our operational protocols. Your team's reliance on intuition and decades of experience is unscalable and, frankly, inefficient, she told me directly, in front of 3 of her newly hired digital strategists. One, need data points, algorithms for staffing, AI for guest requests, not gut feelings. We're phasing out these outdated manual processes immediately. My team's deep operational expertise, the kind that anticipated a problem before it arose, was dismissed as a quaint, useless relic. Each pronouncement was a public flogging, a systematic dismantling of everything that made us great. The Grand Ambassador wasn't just a building, it was a legend I'd painstakingly polished. When I took over 2 decades ago, it was a tired 3-star property. I rebuilt it brick by brick, relationship by relationship. We achieved a consistent 5-star rating year after year, becoming a jewel in the city's crown. Our average occupancy rates hovered around 85% year-round, consistently outperforming the big impersonal chains. Our corporate accounts, the lifeblood of our midweek business, represented a staggering 70% of our total revenue. These weren't faceless contracts, they were partnerships forged over countless perfectly executed events, late-night problem-solving, and an unwavering commitment to exceeding expectations. Companies like Sarah Chen's Antech Industries didn't just book rooms, they trusted me with their most important clients, their make-or-break conferences. I personally contribute over half the hotel's profit, and she's tossing me out like yesterday's room service tray. I thought, the injustice a cold knot in my stomach. My detailed notes on returning guests, Mrs. Albright's preference for gardenias, Mr. Henderson's quiet corner table for breakfast, the Johnson family's annual anniversary, complete with their kids' favorite cartoon characters on the welcome cookies. These were the threads of our success, woven into the fabric of the Grand Ambassador. Ava saw them as inefficient tequaden. Ava's philosophy was a stark, cold antithesis to everything I believed in. Guests are data sets. Michael. She'd lectured me during one excruciating education session. Their preferences are merely inputs for our algorithms. Loyalty is a trackable metric, a conversion rate, not some nebulous emotion. My world, built on genuine human connection, on anticipating needs before they were spoken, on creating experiences that lingered long after checkout, was alien to her. She wanted to replace our warm, intuitive front-of-house team with impersonal check-in kiosks. She championed automated responses to guest inquiries, believing an AI could replicate empathy. She saw my meticulously kept guest preference cards as ancient relics, I fumed internally. For me, those cards, that knowledge, was our most advanced operating system. It was a battle of philosophies, the warmth of human touch versus the cold efficiency of a machine, personalized care versus depersonalized data. She was trying to turn a sanctuary of hospitality into just another node on a digital grid, and I knew our discerning clientele, the ones who paid premium ADRs, average daily rates, for genuine service, would never stand for it. The purge was systematic. Ava brought in her own digital transformation squad, young, arrogant, and utterly dismissive of the institutional knowledge held by my veteran team. My long-serving department heads, people who could run their sections blindfolded and still deliver perfection, were systematically sidelined. Maria, our head of housekeeping, who knew every stain and every guest's linen preference, found her staffing decisions overridden by an algorithm that understood nothing of human fatigue or specific event demands. Tom, our food and beverage director, saw his curated local supplier relationships dismissed in favor of centralized, cost-cutting procurement systems that prioritized price over quality. My direct lines to key corporate clients, cultivated over years, were abruptly rerouted to a new, faceless, centralized digital outreach team, who wouldn't know a VP from a VCR. It wasn't just my job on the line, it was an entire culture being expunged. We, the old guard, were treated like stubborn stains on her pristine digital carpet. They weren't just firing me. I realized with a chilling clarity. They were performing a digital exorcism, systematically dismantling everything we'd built, piece by piece, to erase any trace of the old ways. The collective humiliation was a heavy cloak, suffocating the morale of those who had poured their hearts into the Grand Ambassador. It was a premeditated slaughter of experience and loyalty. The day my termination was finalized, the day I walked out of the Grand Ambassador for the last time, my personal cell phone exploded. It didn't just ring, it screamed, a constant, furious siren call from a legion of bewildered and angry clients. My phone was hotter than a forgotten iron, buzzing like a hornet's nest. Each call a new blaze of outrage, I recalled. Sarah Chen, CEO of Antec Industries, our biggest corporate account, was one of the first. Mike, what in the goddamn hell is going on? She demanded, her voice crackling with fury. Some clueless 20-something account liaison just called me about our annual gala, a 20-year tradition at your hotel. She mangled my company's name and tried to sell me on a synergistic digital engagement package. If you're not running the show, the Grand Ambassador is not our venue. Period. Her ultimatum was just the opening salvo. Dozens more followed, from local CEOs to international event planners, all echoing the same sentiment: their loyalty was to me, to the service and trust I represented, not to the bricks and mortar or some new, sterile corporate mantra. Rolodex, as Ava had mockingly called my contact list, wasn't just names, I thought with a grim satisfaction. It was an army, and they were sharpening their pitchforks. A wild idea, a tiny spark of defiance, ignited in the wreckage of my career. What if I could take this army, this loyalty, and build something new from the ashes? The raw anger began to cool, replaced by a steely resolve. I needed a plan, a strategy. My first call was to Emily Carter, a sharp, pragmatic lawyer specializing in employment and business law. We met in her no-nonsense office, the city skyline a distant, indifferent backdrop. I laid out the non-compete agreement. The Grand Ambassador's HR department had smugly slid across the table with my severance check. Emily scanned it, her expression unreadable. "It's aggressively broad, Mike," she finally said, tapping a pen on the dense clauses. "Typical corporate overreach. Designed to intimidate. We could challenge its enforceability, particularly the scope and duration. But be warned, if you directly solicit their current clients right away, they have deep enough pockets to try and bury you in legal fees. Even if they ultimately lose." That was a sobering thought. Ava and her backers would relish a legal fight. But, Emily continued, a slight smile playing on her lips, "There's nothing in here that prevents you from utilizing your general skills, your extensive knowledge of the hospitality industry, or your decades of experience. And if former clients, of their own volition, choose to seek out your expertise, especially for a new type of service you might offer, well, that's an entirely different kettle of fish." Her words were a key unlocking a door I hadn't realized was there. The anger was still a low burn, a pilot light. But now, Something else was kindling alongside an idea. Not revenge, not anymore. Reinvention. I could start my own consultancy, I mused aloud. Focus on genuine guest experience. The very thing they discarded. Emily nodded. Precisely. You're not competing, you're creating something new. Let's draft the paperwork for Donovan Hospitality Excellence. A few days later, as I was sketching out a business plan for my nascent consultancy, Sarah Chen called again. Her voice was warm, resolute. Mike, Antec is looking to acquire a smaller, independent boutique hotel downtown. It's got great bones, a fantastic location, but the service standards are lacking. We don't want that corporate, cookie-cutter gloss that's infecting everyone. We want your touch, your magic. Would you consider consulting for us on this? It's a distinct project, a complete overhaul from the ground up. I hesitated for a beat. The non-compete, though Emily deemed it weak, still loomed. The risk of a vindictive lawsuit from the Grand Ambassador's parent company was real. But this wasn't about poaching their existing business. This was a new venture, a clean slate. It felt right. I admitted to myself. A chance to build, not just fight. I accepted. The project was intense, demanding, but incredibly rewarding. We transformed that struggling boutique hotel into a haven of personalized service, focusing on training staff to anticipate guest needs, creating unique local experiences, and fostering a culture of genuine care. The revived hotel quickly became the talk of the town. Lauded for its authentic charm and exceptional service, a stark contrast to the increasingly sterile atmosphere guests were reporting at the Grand Ambassador. Word of this success rippled through the close-knit hospitality community. Other independent hotel owners, wary of the one-size-fits-all solutions offered by big consultancies or the crushing homogenization of chain affiliation, began to reach out. "We heard what you did with the Middleton. We need that kind of help," became a common refrain. My cautious trial was rapidly becoming a validated business model. My decision to go independent received an unexpected, if grim, validation from an old colleague. David Miller, the head concierge at the Grand Ambassador, a man whose discretion was as legendary as his ability to procure impossible theater tickets, called me on my burner phone. His voice was hushed, worried. "Mike, it's a complete bloody disaster here," he whispered. "Since you left, occupancy has plummeted. We're down over 30% compared to last year. The guest satisfaction scores are in the toilet. People are complaining about the impersonal service, the glitches with the new smart room tech, the clueless new staff. That idiotic automated check-in system Ava was so proud of. It crashed 3 times last week during peak arrival, absolute chaos in the lobby." I listened, a cold knot forming in my stomach. It wasn't joy I felt, but a profound sadness for the institution I'd loved. "Staff morale is rock bottom, Mike," David continued. "Half your old team are actively looking for other jobs. And Ava, she's blaming transitional friction, and get this, lingering old guard resistance undermining her digital-first strategy." He paused, then delivered the kicker. Sarah Chen officially canceled Antec's annual gala. Sent a scathing letter directly to the board. Said the hotel had lost its soul. Other big accounts are making similar noises, threatening to pull their multi-year contracts. Ava is scrambling, but she's completely out of her depth. She doesn't understand what she's broken. His words, intended as a warning and an update, served as a powerful affirmation. My archaic methods, the emphasis on human connection and meticulous attention to detail, weren't liabilities, they were the very lifeblood of that hotel. And Ava, with her blind faith in algorithms, was bleeding it dry. It solidified my resolve. There was a clear, desperate market for what I offered: genuine, high-touch hospitality in an increasingly impersonal world. My path was clear. The call came on a Tuesday, a number I didn't recognize. "Michael Donovan?" a gruff voice inquired. It was Arthur Harrison, a senior board member of the Grand Ambassador's parent company, a man I'd respected during my tenure. "Mike, we've made a monumental mistake," he said, no preamble. "Ava Sharma's vision, it's been a catastrophe. Revenue is tanking. Our reputation is shredded. We want you back. General manager, no chief hospitality officer. Name your price. You'll report directly to the board. Sharma will be reassigned." The offer was a vindication, a sweet if bitter pill. For a fleeting moment I imagined walking back in, Ava's face a mask of defeat. But then, clarity cut through the temptation. They didn't truly want me or my philosophy. They wanted my network, my Midas touch, a quick fix for their self-inflicted wounds. They hadn't learned the lesson, only felt the pain. "Mr. Harrison, I appreciate the offer, I truly do," I said, my voice even. "But I've started something new, something I believe in. I'm building, not just patching." I must respectfully decline. There was a stunned silence on the other end. He tried to persuade me to up the offer, but my mind was made up. I was on a different path now, one guided by my own values, not corporate desperation. My consultancy, Donovan Hospitality Excellence, was thriving, but I saw a bigger opportunity. Individual consulting was good, but what if I could create a collective? An alliance of like-minded independent luxury and boutique hotels. I envisioned a network where these unique properties could share best practices in delivering genuine guest experiences, collaborate on marketing to discerning clientele who valued authenticity over branding, and benefit from group training programs steeped in my philosophy. Not a chain, with its stifling uniformity, but a quality-driven alliance, a beacon for true hospitality. I refined the concept and first pitched to Sarah Chen, who, besides being a former client, had become a trusted advisor. "Mike, this isn't just a good idea, it's a necessary one," she said, her eyes lighting up. "Independent hotels need a way to compete without sacrificing their soul." With her backing, I approached a handful of other receptive independent hotel owners, many of whom had already sought my consulting services. "We're not going to compete with the mega chains on algorithms or loyalty points," I told them in our initial meeting. "We're going to compete on what they can't replicate: authentic, deeply personalized, memorable human experiences. We'll be the anti-chain chain, a hallmark of genuine care." The enthusiasm was palpable. They bought in, not just with words but with commitments to seed funding. The Donovan Hospitality Alliance, DIA, was born. The growth of DHA was faster than I could have imagined. Within 6 months, 10 boutique hotels, each a gem in its own right, had joined the alliance. We weren't just a letterhead, we were a vibrant community. We held workshops on everything from the art of the welcome to empowering frontline staff to create wow moments. We shared anonymized guest feedback to identify common pain points and collective strengths. The results spoke for themselves. Member hotels saw tangible improvements in their guest satisfaction scores, a noticeable uptick in repeat business, and healthier RevPAR figures, even in competitive markets. Industry publications like Hotelier Today and Luxury Travel Advisor began to take notice. Feature articles appeared, dubbing DHA the human touch renaissance in hospitality, and the alliance that's redefining boutique luxury. Invitations to speak at industry conferences started arriving. I wasn't just Mike Donovan, the ex-GM, anymore. I was becoming a voice for a different kind of hospitality. The news from the Grand Ambassador, when it came, was predictably bleak. David Miller kept me sporadically informed. Ava Sharma had been quietly, unceremoniously let go. "No golden parachute from what I hear," David had said with a touch of grim satisfaction. The hotel itself was floundering, occupancy rates still dire, its once stellar reputation tarnished. Rumors of a potential sale to a budget-oriented chain were circulating. Then came the ultimate irony, a tentative inquiry from the Grand Ambassador's interim management, routed through a third-party consultant. They wanted to know if Donovan Hospitality Alliance would consider taking them on to help restore their service culture and guest loyalty. The dinosaur they'd kicked out was now the expert they hoped could save them from the digital meteor shower Ava had unleashed. I instructed my assistant to politely decline, stating DHA was focused on supporting inherently independent boutique properties. The reversal was complete. The Donovan Hospitality Alliance continued its steady, organic growth. By our second anniversary, we had 20 5-member hotels across 3 states. We weren't aiming for rapid, unchecked expansion, but for a curated collection of properties genuinely committed to our ethos. I hired a small, dedicated team, a marketing guru who understood storytelling, an operations expert with an eye for detail, and a training coordinator who could inspire passion in frontline staff. We established the DH Seal of Excellence, an accreditation that quickly became a recognized mark of genuine, high-quality hospitality, sought after by discerning travelers. I found myself not just a consultant or a business owner, but a thought leader, actively shaping a segment of the industry I loved, proving that technology should be a tool to enhance human connection, not replace it. One crisp autumn afternoon, I found myself walking through the bustling lobby of one of our newest DHA member hotels in Chicago. It wasn't my hotel, but it felt like it, the genuine smiles on the faces of the staff, the relaxed, happy chatter of guests, the subtle details that spoke of care and attention. A young concierge was patiently helping an elderly couple with directions, not just pointing, but drawing them a little map with a smile. It was a small thing, but it was everything. It wasn't about revenge on Ava Sharma or the Grand Ambassador. That fire had long since burned out, leaving behind only the warm embers of lessons learned. It was about proving a fundamental truth in a world increasingly obsessed with data and automation. The human element, genuine connection, isn't just valuable, it's vital. It's the irreplaceable core of true hospitality. Getting fired, as humiliating as it was, had been the catalyst. Best emotion I ever got, I often mused. It had forced me out of a comfortable, if increasingly compromised, position and compelled me to build something that was wholly, authentically mine, something based on enduring principles, not fleeting corporate fads. And in doing so, I'd found a deeper, more satisfying success than I'd ever known.